I'm not sure you have what it takes to do this, because I've seen people who are way more talented than you not be able to do this. But I mean, when I look back at it now, I mean, he wasn't wrong. He told me he was being truthful, and he was actually being a good dad in telling me that.
Gather around, friends. I'm Katie Darrell, and today we are at home and social with Patterson Hood of Drive-By Truckers. Hey, dude, how's it going?
Hey, going good. Good to see you.
I can see you're in a hotel room, and that brings me to a great question. When you are out on the road, do you use the mini shampoo bottles, or do you pack your own?
No, I got my own stuff. I got to take care, the curls.
You don't got to tell me about packing your own stuff.
Yep.
Hotel life is hard, but it's also fun, and you hear both sides of it from musicians. Where do you generally land? Do you love a good hotel?
Oh, I love a good hotel, and we live on the bus too, so we spend probably 5 nights of the week, all like 10 of us living on a bus, and sleeping in the bunk and all of that. So the nights when we generally get a room if we have a day off, and so that we can all stretch out. And the bus really sucks when it's parked, because it's like it's not made for that, and it's either too cold or too hot, and it starts getting really smelly and all that. So it's best to be on the bus when we're actually moving. That we driving all night and we sleep while the bus driver drives, and then we wake up in the town we play in.
Do you feel like you've perfected the art of packing for life out on the road, or is it just
close?
Yeah.
Never perfected, but close. I've gotten where I usually don't screw up. I usually don't end up on tour without enough of what I need or with way too much. I usually get it pretty close now. And it's been particularly intense, this last year, because we were off for a year and a half. And so all these shows that we had booked for 2020 and the first half of 2021 have all kind of gotten crammed into, this last 10 months or so, and we've been really busy. Like I haven't been in my house but 5 days since March, and I have gotten to see my family some, because we were in Atlanta some together for several weeks, and we've so I've gotten to see my kids and stuff. But I haven't been home. I haven't slept in my bed. I've barely slept in my bed since March.
Oh my gosh, that does sound a little bit hard. And it's all back-to-back dates. I mean, not only do you have the regular tour, but there's festivals. Let's talk about, you've got BeachLife and Bourbon and Beyond. That's going to be taking place in September, back-to-back, right? These great festivals. One's in Kentucky, one's in California.
LA. Yep.
I mean,
we'll be actually getting off stage and going straight to the airport in order to get a flight, in order to be there in time for what we have to do the next day in LA. And I hate it when it's like that, because I'd rather have a full day in LA and a full day in Louisville. I like Louisville a lot. That's a good town. And so I hate having to kind of rush it, but at the same time, man, I'm glad to have the work. After 2020, I can't take anything for granted.
Well, the real bummer part is Bourbon and Beyond is the show that you're going to be rushing away from.
Right. And it's an amazing show.
Yeah. I mean, come on, all the bourbon.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I actually don't drink bourbon anymore, but I appreciate it. I think I have my lifetime quota at some point. And
it maxed out.
Decided I was through with that. But
when you do festivals like BeachLife and Bourbon and Beyond, the camaraderie, the backstage bonding with other bands, what is that like for you guys? Are you minglers, or do you kind of just sit in your room and stay in the mindset, man?
It kind of varies. I probably tend to be one of the more mingling ones in the band, and because I'm by nature kind of extroverted, and I like I like seeing or making friends in other bands or whatever, and so I think the LA show we're playing with Wilco, and that, of course, that'll be exciting and always great. And I know John from way back. Like, I knew John before he was in Uncle Tupelo, which was before Wilco, And so it's always good to see him again. And the band that Cooley and I had back in the 80s used to play shows with the band he had with Kerry Hudson, who later was in Blue Mountain back in the 80s. And so we go way back, even though, we hardly see each other, but so that'll be cool. But yeah, and I like seeing other bands. I like seeing bands and stuff, but because when I'm off, I try to go to as many shows as I can, anytime I can get away with the kids and stuff, I try to go see shows. So that's all fun.
For those of you just joining us, I'm Katie Darrell, and he is Patterson Hood of Drive By Truckers. What makes a good guitar? Obviously, you're drawn to your guitar, but when you pick up someone else's gear and you feel it, what needs to feel good for you to say this is a good guitar, dude?
Oh, I don't know. It's that's probably something that's really a matter of everyone's taste, because everyone, probably is looking for something different. I mean, there's certain things that are just, definitely make a good guitar. Mm-hmm. if it feels good, if it plays good, if it sounds good, all those things are great. But sometimes there can be a guitar that you just fall in love with that doesn't really necessarily do those things. Sometimes a crappy sounding guitar, there's a use for that, and sometimes a guitar that's a little awkward to play, there's a beauty in that because it makes you play different. And I don't by no means have a huge guitar collection, but I've got a few, and I've got some sweethearts. I've got an old 1930s Gene Autry cowboy guitar built in the Harmony factory in the 30s. And I've got a friend who's a luthier named Scott Baxendale, who takes those old guitars built in the Harmony factory and the old K's and Harmonies from the old days, and he rebuilds them and basically makes really premier new guitars, recycling the old wood and the best elements of the old guitars and the look of the old guitars. And I've got a small little collection of those, which I love. And I've got a 69 Les Paul Gold Top that's, I guess, my most valuable guitar. And then I've got just a very non-vintage, like 2002 or 2003 Gibson SG that there's absolutely nothing special about it, but I've played it on probably 75% or 80% of everything I've recorded since I bought it. It's my main guitar, and there's nothing special about it, but I love it.
Forgive me if I haven't seen the footage, but so if this question is dumb, have you ever smashed a guitar?
No, I'm not a guitar smasher. I have, I have an appreciation. I particularly liked it when Phoebe Bridgers did what she did on Saturday Night Live. I love her, but I'm not a guitar smasher. For years and years, I had beat up crappy guitars because I couldn't afford a decent guitar, and I just did the best I could to make it work. My partner Cooley used to be real temperamental in his younger days, and he smashed a couple here or there, one of which he threw part of it at me on stage. And but that was a long time ago, and it wasn't for show, although it made for quite the show in Cleveland one night, but it wasn't for show. He meant it. I don't think he remembered the next day what he meant by it, but he meant it at the time.
The new album from Drive By Truckers is called Welcome to Club XIII. Now, mind you, on the album cover, it is in Roman numerals, so right. You got to feel fancy when you look at that.
It's classy. Yeah.
Exactly. This album is a little bit different than some of the ones you've put out in the past. Rightfully so, you've admitted that this is a more personal album versus political album. Tell me about the mindset when you were drumming this up.
Yeah, a lot of it was written during the lockdown, and we were cooped up at home with our own brains and no escape and no outlet for, a lot of, being out and playing the rock show is a big outlet for my personal angst. And so not having that for a year and a half, I think I went a little bit crazy, and I kept it together, because I've got kids, and I didn't turn into a character from a Stanley Kubrick, Jack Nicholson movie or anything, but I definitely had some dark nights of the soul during that period. And
Here's
so
Patterson.
oh yeah, so some of it was written during that, and a little bit of it was written before that, because I had always, back when we made American Band, which was the first of what ended up being 3 albums we did that were kind of built around, the news of the day right now and current events. When we made American Band, we didn't intend on ever following that up with another one of those kind of records. It was just supposed to be like a one-off thing that we were doing that would kind of sit outside of the rest of our catalog, is the way, at least the way we viewed it at the time. And then it came out in the fall of 2016, and the whole world went from crazy to way crazier. And so we ended up touring behind that record for 3.5 years and making a follow-up that was probably even more politically oriented, and et cetera, et cetera. But so I had always kind of planned on the next record being a little more of a personal kind of thing, and then it just kind of kept getting pushed back until finally we have this record now.
And it's a record with great folklore around it, because I mean, for reals, did you record and write this thing in 3 days?
It was recorded in 3.5 days, okay. The basic, tracking of it. And it was written, it was written in short bursts here or there. I wrote the last song for it, which was the first song on the record, in March of last year. And we recorded it the very last week in July of last year. And then, of course, there's the long wait to get vinyl manufactured now, because there's, vinyl's become a big thing now, which I'm glad of, but now it's hard to get your records made. And those of us that have been putting out our records that way all this time, we get a little.
You might be like, get in line, buddy.
Yeah,
you were here first.
It's like, well, we have to wait for them to press another 500,000 units of Fleetwood Mac's Rumors or Hotel California before they can get around to Welcome to Club 13. And so that's kind of the bummer right now, but hopefully that'll work itself out in time. But at least we did get the record in time for our release date, which is more than a lot of bands can say right now, because a lot of bands are releasing their records and their records aren't even there yet, and that sucks. And so we got lucky with that.
You guys do a lot of fun stuff with merch though too. I mean, like, you have a puzzle. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, merch is literally how we raise our kids. It's how we support our families, because touring's so expensive that the profit margin on touring has always been precarious. And right now, with gas prices and everything else the way it is, it's beyond precarious. And and you don't really get the era of getting mailbox money if you're not Beyonce or someone like that is pretty much over, because streaming just doesn't pay. And unless you're streaming in the billions, it doesn't pay. And so it's a tough time to be in this business, and as if it hadn't always been a tough business, but it's an extra tough time right now.
You talk about the business sides, and that it is a tough business. Did your dad make the business look easy or hard? What was that communication like? And for those of you who aren't aware of it, Patterson's dad, your dad was the bassist for the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
So how did he describe going to work?
I mean, he always drove home that it was a really difficult business. At the same time, my dad wasn't the type of guy who talked about work. And so he didn't come home and talk about work. And he had a job that I particularly found fascinating and interesting. So I would try to get him to talk about work, and he wouldn't do it. And so that was, what are you working on this week? Oh, not much. Well, and you've never heard of him. It's like, well, maybe not. Who is it? And so he wasn't necessarily. He's not a super talk. He talks more now in his older age, but he wasn't a particularly talkative person anyway. But but I knew enough to know that it was a tough, and one time he kind of sat me down because he knew I was dead set on doing this for a living, and he didn't really think I had, what it took to do it. And this is when I was like probably 18 or 17 or 18. I was a senior in high school, and he's like, listen, he was like, I've seen some really, really brilliantly talented people fail, and it's like, I'm not sure you have what it takes to do this, because I've seen people who are way more talented than you not be able to do this. And, and at the time I wasn't too happy about that conversation, but I mean, when I look back at it now, I mean, he wasn't wrong. He told me he was being truthful, and he was actually being a good dad in telling me that. But, and so I think, when I did really, at that time, I decided to go to college. And so I spent 4 years basically, flunking out of college and kind of lost in a haze. But when I actually formed what became my first serious band, Adam's House Cat, with Mike Cooley, who I still play with 37 years later, I was pretty serious about it, because I didn't want to, it's like I realized that it took a work ethic. In addition to being talented, it took a work ethic to make this thing work. And so we've always kind of had that part of it, whether we had the talent part or not. We always worked really hard, and hopefully we've developed some talent along the way. I hope.
We spoke a little bit earlier about this album, the new one, Welcome to Club XIII, being more personal versus political. But when it comes to your politics, is there room for fans that don't agree with your politics in the room?
I mean, on my end, there is, if they're not being assholes about it, I mean, I can have friendships or in-depth discussions with people that I don't necessarily agree with, if they're intelligent discussions and they're not just them basically throwing out things they heard Tucker Carlson say on Fox News as their answers to more complex questions. It's like if you're going to just do that, I don't really have time for this. And if you come to the show, don't act like an asshole, and don't be an asshole to the people around you. Don't be disrespectful to the other people who paid money to come to the show, because that has happened in the past, and not too often anymore, though. We kind of ran a lot of those people off, and it's kind of been nicer, honestly. And, and I hate to say that, but it's just the truth. I've been very personally affected by decisions that people in Washington, D.C. have made in the past or in the present, and I've got, my kids are really starting to come of age now, and they're directly affected by a lot of this. A lot of the songs on The Unraveling, which was the second of those 3 albums, a lot of those songs were directly inspired by conversations I had with my kids, because they were just really coming into the age of really being aware of the world around them and having a lot of questions. And also they were living through lockdown drills at their school. A lot of these songs were very personal to me, even though, they were kind of ripped from the pages of things that were going on.
Before I let you go, why are 3 or 4 guitars better than just one? You love to layer them in. Why are you drawn to that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our songs don't really have 3 guitars anymore. I mean, there's really only a hand. It's funny, we're known for that, but there's really in the show, there's probably, out of a 2-hour show, maybe 30 minutes where that really happens. But it is always fun when it happens, because Jay, who plays guitar, is also a phenomenal keyboard player. He kind of plays a little bit of everything. And, and so, on any given song, he plays whatever he deems needed for the moment. And so you'll sometimes see him back there on the keyboard with the guitar in his lap, and he'll play guitar on part of the song and go back to the keys and all that. And and of course, Cooley and I have played together for, forever since we were literally teenagers. And so, and I got to do something. I don't want to stand there with the microphone. So
you're very aware of what are my arms doing.
Yeah, I'm probably better off. I'm not a good enough dancer to be Mick Jagger, so I play guitar too.
Before I let you go, breakfast with rock stars. What'd you have for breakfast today?
I actually had breakfast today. I seldom eat breakfast, especially on the road. I tend to sleep till noon when possible, and then I get up and drink coffee. And if I have press, I go eat after that. But today I've got a bunch of press stuff. I've got about 4 hours of it, so I had to get up and have breakfast. So I had eggs over easy and some bacon, toast. It was okay. The restaurant downstairs at the Holiday Inn wasn't bad, and I'll have a nice dinner tonight. I've got a cousin who's taking me out to dinner tonight, so I'll have a good dinner tonight.
Well, good. Enjoy it. Enjoy the day off, although it's not really a day off because it's all the press. So thank you for humoring me.
Absolutely. Great talking to you, and thank you so much.
Nice to chat with you. Be safe there on the road, okay?
All right. Take care.
Hey there. Thanks for watching AXS TV. Subscribe, follow, like, and do all the good stuff. And make sure you leave a comment below. I don't know, just let us know what your favorite AXS TV show is, or who your favorite bands are, and what artists you're into, or just say hi, man. I'd like to be told hi. We love hearing from you. That's the point, all right? Keep it coming.